It's my pleasure and my great honor to introduce the 20th president of the University of Central Oklahoma, Dr. Don Betz.
What a wonderful university community this is. And Bill, thank you for your comments and your friendship. Your leadership has made such a difference at this institution for so many years as a faculty member, as well as a member of the administration, and certainly as the greatest provost we have ever had at the University of Central Oklahoma. Ladies and gentlemen, my thanks to so many people, but particularly at this moment to Nancy and Kristen and Katie and Kiana, all of the UCO IT bunch, all the members of the cabinet, and everyone that has reached out to me over the past 2 weeks, which has been a whirlwind. And I thank you for making this first part of the transition not just possible, but enjoyable, and your friendship and graciousness has really blessed us. I'd like to take a moment to introduce a very special guest here with us today, someone who I've come to know over the past year and appreciate immensely his contributions and his passion for higher education. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Regent Richard Ogden from the Regional University System of Oklahoma. A great friend of higher education and Russo institutions and of this institution. Thank you so much, Richard. And a very special introduction of the former executive director of the Educators Leadership Academy, but better known in some ways, for me, as my life's companion and best friend, Suzanne Betz. We thank you for the warm greetings that you've given us over these past couple of weeks. You know, it was on June 2nd that the Russo regents made their decision, and it was the one decision that could have been taken that would have drawn us away from Northeastern State University, where many of you know that I've spent 26 years of my career in 2 separate tours of duty. But since we were last together, Suzanne and I took the 6-year grand loop from Edmond to western Wisconsin to eastern Oklahoma, and now we've returned. And as you came through the door, you might have recognized some of the music. Before you heard Bob Dylan wailing away, "The times they are a-changin'," you probably heard some songs that you might have recognized from 1993, the year that our traditional freshmen entering this year were born. Now, in a couple of days, our colleagues, yes, friends, I didn't say 1983 or 73. Our colleagues at Lloyd College in Wisconsin will grab the national headlines in a couple of days with their Remember 1993 list of happenings, but we have our own list to kind of put a little bit in context. 1993, the year of Jurassic Park and the Branch Davidians, of Mrs. Doubtfire, and the handshake on the White House lawn between Rabin and Arafat and Clinton that did not bring peace to the Middle East. That was the year we were sleepless in Seattle and trapped in a Groundhog Day. It was the moment for Rodney King and a young president from Arkansas. The Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl and the World Trade Center was bombed for the first time. David Letterman premiered on CBS from the Ed Sullivan Theater. And from the music, you might have heard Mariah Carey's Dream Lover and Hero, Meatloaf's I'd Do Anything for You, and A Whole New World by Peebo Bryson and Regina Bell. Academy Award winner that year, Clint Eastwood's dark western, The Unforgiven. Ladies and gentlemen, our newest students began their lives that year. And now they are here with us. Now I'd like to put a couple of things at rest almost from the beginning. Shortly after President Webb announced his retirement after an illustrious career as president of 2 institutions, as you well know, I happened to be at the Capitol and overheard 2 gentlemen whose names will go unmentioned, who were discussing the issue. The 2 gentlemen professed profound expressions of sorrow and pity for whoever dared to fill those shoes of President Roger Webb. And who would have the temerity to step forth into that role? So let me just say right now, no way, it's not going to happen. No one is going to fill those shoes. As of today, I'm having them officially bronzed. And they will be placed in an appropriate place of honor here at the institution. We together will build on the initiatives established during President Roger Webb's tenure and together create new pathways to learn, to lead, and to serve. For the UCO story, as you all know, all true stories of success have never been about a single person. Even someone as eminent and legendary a leader as Roger Webb has been for me personally and for so many others. It's not about a person, it's not about a year, and it's not about a particular program. It is about talent, it's about passion, it's about hard work undertaken by a living and learning community that changes lives and changes states. And ladies and gentlemen, take a look around, because that community is you. You make it happen. And we are honored to serve in these roles for as long as we are called to do so. Now, if you made it through the summer of 2011, and I always like to look back at the summer, I'm thinking of a couple of things that perhaps will spark your memory. If you made it through Harry, the Pirates, the Transformers, terrible bosses and bad teachers, I hope you have some mind left. We had that relentless heat, again focusing the nation on Oklahoma and the South Central United States, as we boldly challenged existing records for sustained discomfort. But you pressed on with your research, with your teaching, with nurturing struggling yards and gardens, with prepping children for their first days at school, with caring for aging parents and friends in need, for reconceptualizing personal finances, and discovering a new aspect of a familiar interest. Perhaps you slipped away for some well-earned, very well-earned R&R, perhaps taking students on an adventure that will imprint them and you for many years to come. But ladies and gentlemen, the summer's over. We have returned here to Terra. This is the mothership, and this is the university. Our pedagogical clocks tell us it is a new year. The school bell is about to ring. And whether this is your first year or your 41st year, this is a moment of possibilities and heightened expectations. Can you hear them? The students are coming. As in any new academic year, there is excitement and energy as new learners join our community and our responsibilities to them become clearer. Learning happens here. Let the state and this metro and this region know that this is a home for learning, for leading, and for serving. Not just what we do every day in the classrooms, the laboratories, and all the formal ways, but what you do every day in the way you conduct yourselves, by the values you demonstrate, by how you treat students and one another. You are teaching me and us and students about what kind of life a decent life can in fact be. A life well lived. Your model, your example is the true learning moment for this institution. So returning after these 6 years away, I see that UCO is doing what most institutions hope to be doing, living the promise, which you made, or our ancestors made, 125 years ago to the state of Oklahoma and to the people of this state. Today, we aptly and creatively call it transformative learning. But the institution has come a long way since the land run. UCO has stepped up thanks to your energy, your consistency, your commitment, and your values. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in an interesting, what a vacuous term, a provocative period of history. Some like to call it the new normal, a time of challenge and change, characterized by perpetual change, some of it deep, systemic, and rather undeniable. We are bombarded daily by evidence of accelerating pace and the rate of that change, and you can understand that on a personal, professional level. It can be unsettling, it can be uncomfortable, but we have the power, we have the options, the power to choose our response to the challenge of change. And ladies and gentlemen, with your guidance and with your leadership, hunkering down will not be an option for the University of Central Oklahoma. At such a propitious moment, we cannot overestimate the importance of imagination, creativity, and innovation in this era or the next. We are living in a time of exponential acceleration of technological change with its corresponding benefits and disequilibrium. With access to information almost universal, we are entering a new era of the self-educating citizen. And a recent IBM global survey of chief executive officers said that the primary challenge that they see on the horizon is complexity, an attempt to describe and comprehend this sea change in which they find themselves. And they further believe that the essential ingredient for their success, and I would say for Oklahoma's success, lies in creativity. The new normal also means declining state support and, as a perennial condition, more accountability, more regulation, both local and national. So we are in this challenge of change. It's pervasive. Old practices are being judged and reviewed every day. And we are being treated to a period of what I call the politics of the fringe, cascading around us. Those that like to talk about exclusion and exceptionalism. How do we find ourselves in that conversation? How do we get ourselves out of that conversation of the thick of thin things? There has to be a clarion voice to be heard. We've even heard open hostility, ladies and gentlemen, toward higher education from some quarters on the pretext of funding, but in some cases it's deeper than that. There's a more disturbing message about anti-intellectualism, or has been stated publicly recently, an elitist mentality in higher education. Now, I didn't say this next phrase, but I believe it. When all the choices seem to be bad, leadership emerges. And I believe that leadership is in places like the University of Central Oklahoma. I believe that leadership is in civil society, among citizens, advocates of collaboration and inclusion, not exclusion, of optimism and opportunity, not pessimism, of the creation and sharing of knowledge, analysis, and ways of learning, and not a rejection of learning, and in the mentoring of the next generation. Ladies and gentlemen, the pathway out of the morass, out of the thick of thin things, is what you do every day. It's what you do. You educate, you model, you mentor, you lead, and you serve. If those were the values that inspired society, I would say that the conversations we are treated to every morning on the talk programs would be far different and have a far smaller audience. So it's simply this: by what we say and what we do, by what we accept and what we reject and what we embrace, we will define ourselves and our communities each and every day. We are here to grow the next generation of leaders and citizens for this region. The people who will run our cities, take care of our children, police our streets, lead us in politics, lead us in religion, and reconfirm the importance of education for all time. We will lead this change, and we will inspire each other in the process, because being the change is part of our responsibility. We cannot look to anyone else to give us the pathway to change. We must be that change ourselves. Malcolm Gladwell tells us in The Outliers that the best way to proceed for those that have really accomplished much in their lives is a combination of three factors. Passion, you love what you do. Talent, you're really good at something or get better at something. And then the key piece, 10,000 hours. Passion, talent, and 10,000 hours, hard work and persistence. There is no one in this room today, there is no one that has accomplished anything meaningful in their lives that can look back and say, that was so easy. And you know what? I did it by myself. I am so completely self-contained and self-sufficient that I simply make these miracles happen. The miracle, ladies and gentlemen, is in the room, but it's not you. It's the woman sitting next to you and the gentleman behind you, and for him or her, it's you. The story is in the room. It's what we do. It's not what one does. And that's the message that seems to be consistently lost. I think we're going to be pressed into that particular perspective by the very pressure of history and what we see happening around us in a daily way. Universities are natural gathering places for the kinds of conversations that must take place in order to establish a common agenda for our communities. Our universities are unique society assets, and universities are leaders and, more importantly, partners in civil society. We help create the world in which your granddaughter, I don't care how old you are, your granddaughter will live. Now, what a responsibility that will be tomorrow morning when you get up and do the mirror test. You know, you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself and you say, oh my God, how can I face the world looking like this? But you've got that one day, that one opportunity to change one life, and you will never know the ripple or cascading effect that will have on somebody else's life. How many of the senior faculty and staff in here have had people come back from 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 and more years ago to tell you, you don't remember me, but I remember you. And I may not remember exactly what you said in class, but I understood something. That you believed in what you were telling me, that you had a great deal of passion, and you cared about me. And while I might not be able to remember every one of your lecture notes, I can tell you one thing. I remember how you made me feel. How you made me feel. You made me feel that I was important. Important enough to be challenged. Important enough to be pushed. Important enough to be encouraged. You made that happen. And now, 10, 15, and more years later, this is my gift to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for me. Thank you for my children. Thank you for the people I work with. Thank you for the community I'm involved in. Because something I learned from you, by what you said and by who you are, changed my life. Now, how many jobs, how many opportunities will we have in our lives to be connected to an enterprise that allows us, that encourages and gives us the opportunity to make that kind of contribution? What's going to count for you? When the bells toll and everyone gathers together and you're reviewing all that was in fact your life, what will really matter? What will really count? Well, as I move further into the deep autumn, early winter of my years, I can tell you that has become more crystal clear than ever. And perhaps this is where knowledge gives way to just a little tinge of wisdom, as I feel that I know, at least for me, what really matters. And it's what you do here. I mean it. It's what you do here. And I am so thankful that we have this chance together to make a difference. You have established the University of Central Oklahoma as Oklahoma's public metropolitan university. The metro is our neighborhood. We are the steward of this place. Oklahoma City and Oklahoma will know us as their most collaborative partner. As a higher education institution, we will build and continue to build, as you've done, effective connections with a broad range of partners, education and non, all focused on living the promise of this mission. Read the mission, what we pledge to do as an institution. We will be recognized, as you have already worked, as a dynamic and resourceful societal asset. You will be the story that we will tell about what makes university education significant. So I want you to know is that I thank you. I believe in you. Your efforts and commitment to walk the talk with authenticity is a model for students and for each other, and certainly for me. I want you to know from the few moments that I have here today, because we'll have a chance to see each other later, that I have a passionate attachment to the Central Six. Different words than when we were here before, but the same sentiment and the same approach. And what you have done, all of you have been part of this, is nothing short of phenomenal. I have watched you, I've told the others this earlier, I have watched you from Wisconsin and from Tahlequah and Broken Arrow, etc. As probably one of your strongest admirers in a distance. And I have been so proud of what you've done. I've been so proud to watch the sense of this institution's persona change and rise in the discussion. Do you remember when there was a time that our biggest concern was that we're sort of trapped between Norman and Stillwater, maybe we're supposed to be like one of those places? You don't say that anymore, and people don't say that anymore. This is an absolutely self-described, unique institution, filling a niche in Oklahoma higher education that has no parallel. There's no one like you. There's no one like this place can be. And we can actually teach in our own way the state how to proceed with a different view, an alternative view, a complementary view of what higher education can and should mean to the 3.6 million people in the state, most of whom will not attend a Research One institution. You're doing that, and I noted that, and from a distance and was proud of what I saw. I believe, and I will not repeat them to you, but the Central Six are absolutely at the vortex of what we're about, and we will flesh those out together and understand them together. So, it's a time of challenge and opportunity, sobering realities and fresh, unprecedented ways of teaching and learning. So I guess the question today is, why are we here? You say it so simply and so elegantly. We're here to help students learn. We're here to help communities grow and prosper. We intentionally prepare and inspire those who seek a pathway to their future with us. We are focused on growing that next generation of thinkers and doers, of leaders and citizens who embody the university's advocacy of character, civility, and community. Our responsibility is to prepare them for a world of change we might be able to imagine, but we do not know with certainty. Therefore, we must create and sustain what you've begun, a culture of learning. And if that culture permeates the state, it will be one of the most profound changes that could occur here. The habits and values of that culture will serve our students as they learn, they adapt, they learn again in a world of increasing access, connectivity, and ambiguity. We see critical thinking and community engagement as our civic responsibility. So let's welcome our students to the University of Central Oklahoma and to our passions for learning, leading, and for serving. You will inspire them, and they in turn will inspire us. About 10 years ago, the Polish Solidarity leader and president of Poland, Lech Walesa, spoke in Oklahoma City at the Cowboy Museum and said many things. He said, there'll come a time, which I will probably see, when there will be harmony across the land and my country will be able to live in an appropriate kind of peace and tranquility. And there's work to do on every level. He said, but ultimately, together, he said, we have work to do. And here's how we'll do it. We know that no one will succeed in isolation. We know that we are in this together. We will bind our learning community together by the common values and goals and by trust. I will work very hard to earn your trust, because trust, as you know from your personal and professional relationships and from your families and friends, that trust is the glue of life. That trust will be earned by all of us each day. And most importantly, we must and will take care of each other. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.